It's been a long time coming, Jess. I finally got you on here. We've had a lot of couple, well, I say a lot. It was a couple times going back and forth. Can we make it work? And then, I created the book and everything, so we kind of lost track a little bit. But I'm glad we met. We met a while ago through Martha, and she had us connect. And you have a journey of your own, and I would love for you to share that today here on the podcast. So let's just start off with Jess. Who are you today? What exactly are you up to right now?
What am I up to right now? Great question, John. Well, I've had a lot of changes in the past year and a half. We moved from Delaware after being there 20 years to a new community in North Carolina. Our youngest started NC State, and we decided it was time to make a change in life. And it's hard when you're a 50-year-old and you're like starting, I don't want to say all over again because you have a lot of knowledge, but you're starting a new life. And with that comes a lot of challenges. So here I am in North Carolina trying to grow my coaching, wellness business, speaking. I became a bestseller this year for my Real Health book. And so I am just a woman that is trying to inspire other ladies my age to show up for themselves, take care of themselves, do things outside their comfort zone, and just enjoy life because it goes by so quickly. And if we're not making the most of each day, then we're not really serving our purpose.
Yeah, and life does go by very quickly, right? So, why are you? I know you share who you're helping and serving, right? But why exactly are you doing that? What did you experience to get to this point?
Yeah, my journey started as a young gymnast. I was a competitive gymnast in my early life. And after that, I became a serious runner. I went through some health challenges. And then after college and starting a job and starting a family, my daughter was born 9 weeks early when I was 24, spent a month in the NICU. And I personally went through some more health challenges driven by anxiety. And I had no idea that stress and anxiety could trigger your body into just really horrible symptoms. Was seeking out doctors and what was wrong with me. And it's not something I actually really share that much, but it took about a year to get the diagnosis basically that my stress and anxiety were creating a lot of health issues. And so I had to really kind of take a step back. My husband was in school full time in optometry school. My daughter was in the NICU, and I'm working as a pharmaceutical rep. And so when you're faced all these, Mike, to me, they're little challenges compared to what I've been through, but I wasn't channeling my energy in a good way, and I wasn't dealing with the stress and anxiety. And so I stopped working, became a full stay at home mom, and then we started Army life. My husband owed 4 years to the Army, and I had my second child. And to make a very long story short, he was born with a genetic disease called spinal muscular atrophy. It's something we had never heard of. And my husband and I are both carriers, and it's the luck of the draw. And our son Steven passed away at the age of 9 months after a really rough battle with this disease. It's a neuromuscular disease. And I turned to running. Running was always like my solace. That was the way that I channeled my pain. I could work out all the stress I was going through and the grief, and started a nonprofit in his memory. And really, health and wellness have just been a big part of my journey to really more for my mental health, I think, than anything else. Of course, I want to look good, but when you feel better mentally, then you're able to show up better in life. And so that was a big part of my pretty much all my years of life is really just taking care of myself so I could show up fully for others, which I didn't do a great job for many years.
But you're doing it now. Is it because
Yes.
you're taking care of yourself?
Yes, I went through, like, that period of grief where I lost my son, and then I lost 2 more babies in utero within 6 months, and then I lost my father, who was a doctor, who took care of everyone else, but not himself, and I just lived in survival mode, which I think so many people do when you go through hard times in life. And I got to the point in my early 40s where my body was shutting down, even though I was still teaching multiple fitness classes, eating well, but I was all the compounded grief and anxiety and not dealing with it that I really started to pour into myself to be then able to help others. I opened a gym, which I successfully ran for 5 years, and it kinda just snowballed into what I do today.
Yeah, you have a lot going on. So it sounds like you leaned on fitness a lot to kind of help you through everything, but you didn't kind of feel like that was the way to heal. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I leaned into fitness a lot, but realized there were a lot of other pieces missing to really fully heal and to move forward. And I had to do a lot of work, a lot of self-discovery. I went to like a John Maxwell certification. I became a Ziegler coach because I wanted to figure out like what I needed to fulfill myself in order to move forward and to really help others ultimately. Because I think that's what we're put on the earth for is the storms that we've walked through and we've gotten through, then we're able to help those that we know are going through a similar storm.
Yeah, so exactly how did working out, being more physical, kind of push you towards where you're not just building yourself physically, you're building yourself mentally. And I get this a lot too from, when my trainer and everything, right? And it is something because you're showing up, you're being consistent, you're doing something over and over again, and you're seeing results, right? And not just physically, but now mentally. And for me personally, I never even thought that would be something I'd be saying, "Oh, wow, this is changing things," right? And as you're working out, and I would say you could agree to this, you start to see things change in not just that area of your life, but other parts of your life where you just kind of let it flow into something else, right? So you're more consistent in other areas. You're doing the same routines over and over again. So what was it exactly that kind of just like led you to feel like you were finding yourself more mentally where you did go to all these classes and that kind of woke you up in that direction? You know, was it working out that kind of led you there?
Yeah, I think I've always, like I said, it was just part of my upbringing and my being is movement has always been therapy for me. And I think everyone has different forms of therapy. But for me, that's where I found solace and comfort and also pushing myself. I'm as a runner, if anyone's a runner, it's yeah, of course you want to pass people and win, but it's also beating your personal time and how can you push yourself just a little more? And I think that's life in general. Like you're constantly feel like you're running a race, but for me, it's like, how can I become better
Mhm.
instead of focusing on everyone else? And once you become better personally, then you're able to pour into others. And also movement, like when I opened my gym, it was really a community of women who, yeah, they came for the fitness classes and motivation, but they came for each other because we need to have that support and just seeing relationships grow and people changing. I mean, the amount of transformations I saw, not just physically, but mentally was just so inspiring and amazing to be part of that. And so movement for me was just like kind of the driver, but it was a lot of other aspects that played a big part.
Yeah, so you took a lot of risk, it sounds like, right? Created a business, did all this, stuff that I
Yeah.
think you would never think that you would have done before. Kind of, pushing the envelope a little bit and see what happens. So working with other people and seeing what they've gone through, their transformation, what do you see more common in your clients or anybody else that you talk to?
I think so many people are isolated and feel alone. And I know, John, you've had your personal struggles. And when you go through that in life, not like we think we're the only ones going through it because we don't want to share. We're either we feel shamed or embarrassed or we just don't want to talk about it. And I find that when you can find a place where you feel welcome and non-judged, that's the place you need to be. And you need to find a circle, even if it's just one other person that can see you and hear you and lift you without judgment. That is key. And um yeah, I think that's what I really found is women were craving that in the community that I think in any community. And I think it's not just women, I think men too. When we moved here to North Carolina, I said to my husband, like, I feel like you need some other men to do life with too, because, we've been married 28 and a half years and we were raising kids and working and doing all these things, but it's also important to foster relationships with other people that can see you and help you grow. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. I agree with you. And as you probably know from my story, I did find a community of men that kind of supported me along the way, not knowing where things were going to go, etc. So, what would you say is that like initial push, or pull in a sense, if you want to flip it a little bit, that would draw somebody in or allow them to reach out to you or somebody else to find that community? I mean, it took me a lot to go talk to strangers and say, "This is my problem. Can you help me out?" Right? And I don't know about you. I'd love for you to expand on that too, if that was something that you had a hard time doing as well. But what would you say that is like for most people?
I think for me, it's being vulnerable and sharing my story, and my whole premise is, like, keeping it real, like, I am what like, you see what you get with me. I don't pretend. I am who I am, and I just don't apologize for it. I am a people pleaser, and so that can be an issue sometimes because I'm sometimes hold back, but that's just the way I'm wired, and it's something that I constantly work on, and I think so many people are wired that way. But I think just sharing your story inspires others to open up. Like I was sharing with you before we started, I had a gentleman on my podcast yesterday, the Real Wellness podcast, and he's a recovering addict for 45 years. I mean, not he's 45 now, but from teen until last year, he was addicted to drugs on and off. And I asked him, like, what was your breaking point? And he's like, I just knew I didn't want to live like this anymore. And I think everyone has a breaking point. It's what is it? And then you need to find someone that can help you because we shouldn't be going through life alone.
Yeah, it's that one thing that says, "Okay, I need to make a change," but then you just go, "I don't know where to turn to. I don't know what their book to read or podcast to listen to." Um, what would you say was I know you mentioned your son passing away, and, would you say that was, like, a catalyst as well to kinda push things in a direction to kinda help other people and move forward? And I know you made a nonprofit after that stuff, but you're shaking your head. I know people can't see,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, not funny, but when I was a pharmaceutical rep and I was like 23 out of college, looked so young, and I'll never forget, and it's part of my book, is I met another young gentleman, probably like 26, and pharmaceutical reps talk back and forth, and he just shared with me with one day that he had lost his son to leukemia at 3 years old, and I was just like crushed for him because I just had my daughter, and I just remember thinking, I just can't imagine because you never think you're going to be that person, like, we say never, and that was me just a few years later, and it's something that no parent should have to ever experience, but once you go through that and you find there's certainly a lot of other parents that have carried that, cross. For me, I started a nonprofit. I had 2 other women that had also lost children to SMA, and they kinda guided me to starting a nonprofit because I'm the type of person that I can't just sit back and do nothing. I couldn't save my son, but maybe someday in the future, I would be able to save other babies. And today, actually, I just finished a fundraiser I did over the past 2 days where I ran and walked 25 miles. My son would have been 25 yesterday, and I did it as a fundraiser. And to date, we've raised over $2 million for Cure SMA. And so that was just part of my healing journey. Is when you go through something so painful, there's got to be some sort of glimmer. There's got to be a reason, And I hate that saying, oh, there's what is the saying about like what you're given? Like there's always a purpose to it. And we just can't see it. But we have a choice. I always say it's not what happens to us in life, it's what happens for us. I think Ed Milet has quoted that. And that's really a choice in how you move forward in life. And so for me, it was digging into nonprofit and supporting a lot of other parents who were going to walk the same walk as my husband and I.
Yeah, so would you say you found your purpose and that's your purpose?
I think I'm still discovering my purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like constantly evolving. I try to live each day, like starting my day by asking God to put someone in my path that I can just make a difference. Like put
Mm.
someone, even if it's just a kind word. Like I just want to be able to pour into others and offer hope, encouragement, whatever that might look like. Um, and really my mission of inspiring others to take care of their health because so many people take it for granted until it's too late and then they're like digging out from the hole. And sometimes the hole is too big and it's going to engulf you. So it's being proactive with your health and doing whatever you can to take care of yourself because our body is a gift.
Yeah, and what would you say is the number one reason why people don't take care of themselves, being more fit, healthy, and eating right?
I think people just don't they just go through life and they don't really I think they take it for granted. I think some people think it's hard. which it I don't want to say it's hard. It's a choice like anything else. Um, I just think people aren't aware of it. Like I don't think they realize until it's to the point where they're being diagnosed with something that then they realize, well, maybe I should have made some changes. And I also think it's just the way society is, unless you're being proactive about it, that you just maybe don't think about it. I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is to that. I wish I did because then I think a lot more people would be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my thoughts are is like food is so abundant that we can just eat whatever we want whenever we want, right? And so we look at that as a reason
Yes.
to, I'm okay, everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And it could be anything like ice cream, or all that stuff, the good stuff too,
Yeah.
salad and everything else. Um, but also too, I feel, and maybe you could agree too, is people just use it as a coping mechanism as well. They just eat and eat and eat because that's their stress reliever as well.
Hmm.
Um, I know I find myself sometimes like when I'm stressed out, I might just lean towards, eating some junk food or whatever. And that's just what it is. Like I see it. Um, but that's not okay. It's not okay. And so like that's when you have something available in your house or something and you just go for it when you shouldn't have that available so that you're not going for it, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a small change we have to work on.
Hmm.
And if we're constantly growing up around people that are telling us that what we're doing is right and it's the food that we're eating, filling our house with all this junk food and whatever, and then we're going to think that's always right until we get to the point, like you're kind of saying, it's kind of getting too late. It's not too late. We can make a change, but it's going to be a lot harder to change now and get our bodies back to where they should be.
Yeah.
Right. So, during that kind of transformation, how long do you see somebody having that struggle to get to where they want to be, but after dealing with something for so long?
Yeah, you touched on some really good points, John. Number one, it is part of our upbringing. We are brought up a certain way, and it's hard to escape that. We don't know what we don't know until we know it. I mean, I used to feed my kids hot dogs and mac and cheese and donuts because food is a reward. And you said that, like, it's just kind of what it is. But we are responsible for what we put in our body, and food is truly medicine. And we live in a society that everything is instantaneous. We can order and food can be at our door in 5 minutes. We can get our fill of social media and get our dopamine up. I mean, it's the society has taught us that we can just have everything we want right away. And that's really not how it should be. And it's kind of sad to me. Um, but as far as transformations, we don't become a certain way overnight and it takes time. And my book Real Health is basically a framework of how do we achieve goals. Number one, in being realistic on what we can achieve in a certain time frame, using the right energy sources. So whether it's food, movement, sleep, community, getting outside, then we have a lot of negative energy sources that we kind of need to eliminate. Just being aware of that, taking action, because this is where I think so many people get stuck. They don't know how to start, or they get overwhelmed by thinking of the big picture. Yesterday, I did a post about when I started, my 25 miles, it seemed like so much like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this all? And it's one foot in front of the other leads to 25 miles. That's life. So, and then the last part of my framework is love. And I think so many people are walking around in our world that don't like themselves. They don't love themselves. And if you don't love yourself, it's also your relationship with God. You have to love yourself first to respect yourself and to do the things you need to do to live optimally and purposefully.
Yeah, agreed. And so that can take you right back to where you kind of mentioned you were a people pleaser and still are a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So how do you take like let's just dive in that real quick for a little bit. Yeah, how do you start taking care of yourself and stop pleasing others? Like what was that step for you? What was the first thing that you did?
I think it's awareness, like looking around at our life. Like I said, I got to my early 40s and I went into early menopause, which was not fun at 42 years old. And I realized like my body was shutting down. And why was I allowing it? I was doing for everyone else. And of course we want to do for others. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're in a place of depletion and exhaustion, how are you really showing up in life? And so it's being aware of like what you're saying yes to, who you're trying to please, because does it even really matter? And this is something I'm constantly working on. And just taking a step back and saying, what changes do I need to make? And then choosing one at a time. Because again, people look at the big picture and they don't start. And so it's choosing the easiest one to accomplish first. So maybe that is you're not drinking water. Like I have clients that are like, oh, I drink a glass a day. Well, that's not healthy. And so maybe it's having 4 glasses of water. Maybe it's adding protein to your morning meal. Maybe it is shutting off social media at 10 o'clock. Whatever it is, you choose one thing to master and then you build from there. It's the book Atomic Habits. Like I love that because it's mastering one little habit and it creates that ripple effect and you get that momentum and then you start to see and feel changes.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it could be something like if we were just talking let's forget the health part right now. If you were talking, like, financially, right, they have this
Mhm.
snowball debt method or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Dave
And so, like
Ramsey.
yeah, right, so you're taking those small little steps to get out of debt, right? And so, we're taking small little steps to get more healthier. So, every little thing we do is gonna make something comes not so much quicker, but it will eventually get there. And then you're gonna look back and go, "I can't believe I got here." Right?
Mhm.
It's amazing. I when I started with, Gordon, my trainer 3 years ago, and now my friend,
By
um
the way, John is looking, I met him last year. He's looking buff. I was like, when you got on, I was like, you've gained some serious muscle.
yeah, so thanks. But, yeah,
Sorry
so,
if
I
I
mean
embarrassed you, John.
no, I'm not embarrassed. I am good, but I just wanted to say, like, he got me down from, like, 160, like, to 147 in the first 3 months, and it was something I didn't wanna do. Basically, it was just, like, cut the fat, and then we'll build your muscle, right?
Yeah.
And I was so shocked that I was able to go through something like that and actually commit and make it happen, to be honest with you. Um, and then, of course, when I got to that point, I'm like, "Gordon, this is not where I wanna be. This is not,"
Yeah.
he's like, I know. This is but you're
He's
doing
like,
it,
I got
right?"
you. Trust me.
Yeah, but you're doing it. And so, like, and he told me not too long ago, because he's getting clients and stuff, and not everybody they wanna start, but then they don't commit to it, right? They don't keep going. And so when I reached out to him, I was ready to make a move. And so for him, and I would say you would say the same thing too, is it's different when somebody tells themselves, "I need to make a change," and then they show up and they start doing things. Um, but the people that are like, "Okay, I'll start and then, I'll do a little bit," and then they don't see a difference right away, that's when I
Mhm.
think they start to fade away.
Yeah.
So I I'm just going back. It's just the little things. Now I did something kind of uh yeah. I want to say I'm gonna say the wrong word. Something kind of crazy where I just like ate less calories and I worked out more and that's what got me to where I was. So it was more of a quicker turnaround as far as physically and mentally as well
Yeah, but
because
you
I
were committed. That's the
that's
difference.
right and that's exactly yeah it's exactly right. So and then when you have somebody, and I'm sure you do this, you hold people accountable, right?
Mhm.
And that's what's important too. So if I don't know what you do with your client, but I mean, I was talking to him every week, and I'm like, well, if I don't go to him saying I did this, 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 and this is good, then I'm gonna look bad, all right? And then I
Yeah.
feel bad because
Yep.
I'm paying them, and I want to make this change.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a guilt trip. Do you have people come to you like once a week or something, kind of accountability program?
Yeah, yeah. I coach, not just health coaching. I do a lot of life coaching and you can tell the people that do the work and don't do the work. And of course we're going to have setbacks. I mean, I had a client last week, she just had a really rough week. And I'm like, that's okay. Like this is life, but don't sit there. Like get up. Like you have a choice. Move forward. But I think a lot of people live in that victim mentality, like, oh, poor me, and I'll never do this. And they look at other people and think they have it all. But the people that have it all, like John, I was just saying about like what you've accomplished, it didn't start off that way. You had to put the work in and you had to be consistent. And that's the difference between people that win and lose is consistency, is showing up and doing the hard work behind the scenes where people don't see it. They don't know the struggles. They only see like all the glory and they think that it just happened. And that's for most people that it's just not realistic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the small little steps we have to take and, holding people accountable, being that coach, being that mentor, I think is very important. So that's great that you're doing this. You're helping people on the way. You're sharing them. I mean, you shared a lot here already today. With your family, what you've been through. People pleasing. Accountability, coaching, health. Which is very important, right? So how does somebody connect and reach out to you, Jess, so that they know how they can talk to you, know what kind of programs you have, get any kind of health, you know, programs
Yeah.
to get them going, right? Because we need
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I have a free guide on my website. It's the Real Health Starter Guide. It's www.jessica-moyer.com. They can connect with me through social media. It's Jess Moyer on Instagram, Jessica Smith Moyer. I don't know why I have that on Facebook. I have my maiden name on there. I think when Facebook started, like you wanted people to find you, like that you went to high school or college with. Um, yeah, I'm pretty much on those. You can connect with me through email, and I can share it with you, John, if you want to put it in the show notes. But yeah, I mean, I really just encourage people to just start where they're at, choose one thing that they want to get better at, and create a plan. And I think I have coaches. Everyone needs a coach to help them to move them forward. And even if it's just an accountability partner, if you don't have money, that can help as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I'll put everything in the show notes. But you also have a podcast too. You just started, right?
Yeah, it's called the Real Wellness Podcast. It's actually a live podcast that I do on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And I just have really interesting guests that might not have, like, they don't have a big following or they're not well known, but they're real people that have walked through some really tough times and have just figured it out, and they're inspiring to me, and they share like their health tips, what's working for them. And yeah, I just love connecting with people and hearing their story and how I can support them. But it's also on my Spotify, the Real Wellness Podcast.
Awesome. So whoever's listening, watching this, go check that out. Leave a review, subscribe, and I just have one question I ask all my guests, Jess. And so, what are three key things you've learned and used along your journey?
What are three key things? Number one is for me to lean into my faith. I grew up Catholic. I'm now just a practicing Christian, and I truly believe a connection with God has saved me many times. And there's a lot of God winks in my life. So I'm so just I encourage people to have that connection with God or with whatever it is for you. Two is to live a life of legacy. So how do you want to be remembered? And every day, the choices you make, is it leading to your legacy that you want to create? And for me, I want to create a legacy for my children. I want them to. I don't need to leave. I would love to leave them a lot of money, but I want them to remember me for how I change people's lives. And to know three, that even in the darkest times of life, that there's always light, and it might be through someone else that you never really expected to be your light, or it's just knowing to ask for help, even if you feel ashamed or you don't want to talk about it, just to reach out to someone.
Yeah, I agree. All great. I do want to ask a question on the legacy part. Um, do you believe that your children could see what you're doing? Eh,
Yeah, absolutely. I believe they do. I mean, even just walking the 25 miles, they know my heart. They know the storms that I've walked through. It's funny, when I wrote my book, Triumph Through the Tears, well, my youngest was too young to write. Actually, no, he didn't write a piece of that. Maybe he did. But anyway, they all wrote a little piece of that book, like just a little segment. But none of them have read my book yet.
mhm,
They just like, it's so hard. But I'm like, I someday you'll read it and understand why I'm wired the way I am, right?
yeah,
And I think even if people don't, and I know John is publishing a book soon, and that might be something like for your audience. I think it's so important to write down your story. So for the people in your life that are going to be left behind, they can understand like your life. I wish I had that from some of my ancestors.
yeah. No, I agree. So I pray that my kids see what I'm doing too. I'm sure they watch everything a little bit here and there, but it's most likely going to be later on in life, probably when they may have problems,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Um, we'll see where that goes, but um, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing how buff I am. I'll tell my girlfriend to so straight like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, because it's been a year, I think, since I've seen you. It's been a
It's
while.
been a yeah, probably since a while since we connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But
it's
it's nice when someone, and I'm not like it's I don't like to comment on people's bodies, but when I see someone that has made a change, I will be like, "You look really good. You look healthy."
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people to hear when they've been putting in the work and no one acknowledges it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree people need to know that they're making a change, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's
I
it's
see that with
self.
my clients. And again, I never focus on body image so much.
Mhm.
It's the in your health inside, but it shows on the outside. When you are healthy, you can just see it on people.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up and, shared that too. So,
Yeah.
Jess, thank you. I appreciate it. And again, it has been a while, but we were able to connect and have you on the podcast. So thanks again.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.